Happy Friday, everyone. It is Steph and Tracy here for the Friday Adventures of Steph and Tracy during a pandemic. And so tonight we thought we would spend about 5 or 10 minutes talking about what are you watching? So let us know in the comments down below. Are you catching this hashtag live? If it's live, other StreamYard is backwards. Live is showing for me right up here. I'm not sure if that's the right way on Facebook, but let us know what you are watching. We thought maybe on a future Friday, we will try to do different things, being that StreamYard is reversed. So everything that you try to do is flipped. It's not mirrored. And so we thought we might try to do our hair one day in reverse. We can't even fix it. Hey, Dana, glad that you're watching. It must be late there for you, and time change weekend happening out in Newfoundland. So let us know what you are watching. So what are you watching on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, on Disney Plus, on Crave? What other things are you watching? Yes. And so Dana said, and I know she commented on my post tonight, Ginny and Georgia, and I haven't seen that one yet, and I don't even know what that one's about. But Dana, let us know other recommendations that you have. And if you're catching this hashtag live or hashtag replay, we are talking about what are your favorite Netflix shows, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. What are some of the things that you like to watch? And Tracy, what are some of the things that you've watched?
I honestly don't watch a whole lot of TV, but during the beginning of the pandemic, I found I needed something just to take my mind off of everything. And so I started watching 2 shows. I watched Virgin River, which I oogled and awed over the scenery. So I finally looked it up, and it's actually filmed in Canada. So that was kind of cool. Nice. So maybe someday I will actually get to see some of that landscape in person. And then the other one was Sweet Magnolias. So looking forward to another season of each of those coming up. What about you?
Nice. I haven't watched either of those, and so I do need some new Netflix shows. So again, let us know in the comments if you have any recommendations for Netflix shows, or we say Netflix, but really any shows. I just finished Cobra Kai. It took me a little while to get into it. It's Cobra Kai is sort of a take on the Karate Kid. So if you remember Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 2, the original ones, it's those same actors, but now they're middle-aged adults that still don't get along really well, and they have kids who get into karate, and then it's kind of all of the antics that go along with that. There is a lot of fighting in those videos, and it took me a little while to get into it. My husband says it's pretty cheesy, and it is a little bit, but as the seasons have gone on, the music gets even better. It's like classic 80s music that's often played in it, and it's kind of the reverse scenario. Daniel LaRusso now owns an auto dealership, so he has a little more money than Johnny, who does not have a lot of money, and they started Cobra Kai, and then of course the evil Sensei came back and took over everything, and now it's kind of like all 3 groups are warring, but now 2 of them, Johnny and Daniel, joined together. So I guess I like it because it's kind of a throwback to the Karate Kid, and they have all of the original people back on it. Ali was just on it. They had an episode where he went to Japan, to Okinawa, and so all of the ones from the second Karate Kid movie were in there. So it was kind of interesting to see what the actors look like now, and it's fictional, so I mean, it's not something that I can watch and not have to worry about. It's not too serious.
Mindless, right?
Yes. The other thing that we both like to watch is The Crown, because we talked a little bit today about how we both like royal, or we find royal information intriguing. So you like The Crown as well?
Yeah, I did like The Crown, and there were parts that my husband and I watched, and we're like, "Wow, did that really happen?" And then I'd be Googling it to see if it did, and sure enough, it had. And I had never really followed the royal family and wasn't a royal watcher, and so it has given me some insight into the history of the royal family. And now with the very controversial interview that happened this week, with Meghan Markle, or Meghan, I don't even know what she goes by, if she goes by.
I don't know when you marry the royal family. I'm not sure. Is it Mountbatten Windsor? I know.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the Crown, and yes, Dana, you do need to watch it. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kayla, how are you? So happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday.
It was a great Friday today because we didn't have to go to work.
It was a really good Friday. I was like, and I didn't even realize that we had it off until I got to this week. And Tracy's like, Steph, we don't work on Friday. I'm like, what? I forgot to put it in my calendar. So it was all good. It was a good surprise. I liked The Crown. And hi, Brittany. I see Brittany's watching. Rhonda's watching. Hello, everybody. And so The Crown, I watched that. And then I watched a follow-up series, a documentary on Diana. And then I watched one from the Windsor family side. And it was quite interesting, the evolution of the royal family. So I have not watched the royal interview, or I guess I'm not sure if they're still considered royal. Their interview with Oprah, I have not watched that yet. So let us know if you've watched that interview, what you thought. Are you a fan of The Crown? That was one of the shows that we've watched. I know, Tracy, you said you watch Heartland quite.
Yeah, we watch it quite religiously. It's our Sunday evening kind of wind down before we put the kids to bed. We're, as many know, are horse lovers, and so yeah, we just sit down as a family and watch that one too.
Nice. I haven't watched that one yet, but I know, I think Lisa or like Dave's sister Lisa, they actually went to the Calgarian area and did an episode of Heartland as extras in the audience at one of the events. So that was pretty cool. I have not watched Bridgerland. Stop combining words. Bridgerton yet, but I've heard good things about it. Brittany said she loves Heartland too, and Rhonda loves The Crown. Yes. So those are some of the ones that we talked about. Oh, The Queen's Gambit. I think that was maybe before Christmas or right around Christmas. People were really into The Queen's Gambit, and it's not a movie. It's a series about chess, and I wasn't really that interested in chess, but it gives a whole other side to the life, whether it's true or not, but it does give some interesting background to chess and a specific chess player and her growing up and ending up in an orphanage and then finding a family, and then how she grows through that and has an interesting life as a chess player. I didn't know you could travel to all the tournaments around the world, but she does. Yes, Rhonda says crazy good. Yeah, I really enjoyed Queen's Gambit. The other favorite that my husband and I really like is The Blacklist. So they're always trying to figure out who Raymond Reddington really is, and there's always some crisis happening that he always seems to be able to help solve a little bit. So that one's kind of one, once you start watching, you're like, well, I just need like one more episode, and then maybe just one more episode, and then you're like, they still haven't told us who he is. And then it's like one more episode. And hey, Renee is watching. Dana's watching. Hi to the East Coast. We hope you had a wonderful Friday.
It's late though.
Yes. Other shows that you've watched, Tracy, that you enjoy?
The other one that we've watched that if you really want to make your family look super normal is Shameless. It is not child appropriate, but it certainly makes our little blips along the way look pretty normal compared to how those children had to grow up.
Yes, Shameless. I'm like, that's very eye-opening. I was going to say movie, but it was not a movie. It was a series, and crazy what some people would have to go through. And it's fictional, of course, but I'm sure that some people experience things like that. So we were very fortunate that is not part of our daily life or things that we have to deal with. That one was good. On Prime, Amazon Prime, I watched, was it Jack Ryan? We watched a few episodes of Jack Ryan, which was pretty good. And The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. If you have Amazon Prime, you should check out The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She is, I think it's set in the 60s maybe, and so she's a young woman, married, they have 2 kids, and she finds out her husband is of course cheating on her with the secretary, because it's kind of that's just what maybe happened, and so she gets really drunk and she ends up in a comedy club and she just tells it like it is, and people think she's hilarious. She actually gets arrested because women aren't allowed to be on stage or say those things on stage. And so then it actually talks about how she meets a kind of a manager who helps her through that, and then she actually becomes a female comedian, but just how it's a role shift it's very rare for a woman to do that in the 60s. And her dad is a university professor in New York, and then he goes through some changes, and then they don't have the money for where they're trying to live. And so it's quite an interesting one. Grace and Frankie was also really good. I enjoyed Jane Fonda, and I can't remember the actress's name. But they're so hilarious together. Other things, see, what else did I like? Suits is really good if you kind of like legal dramas or anything like that. If you want something really funny, Jane the Virgin I think we both watched that one. That one's pretty funny. A little far-fetched at times, but always kind of interesting. And we watched
Working Moms was pretty good too.
Yes, I think I started that one, but I haven't.
I started it. I watched the first season. Personal Connection. The boss was my cousin, my first cousin. So, one of the office bosses. So that's why it led me to it in the beginning. But it actually is really a very good series. So it's quite hilarious too.
And Rhonda said Lily Tomlin. That's who I was trying to think of. And I was like, I can't quite place the name. Yes. The Ranch we've watched with Ashton Kutcher. That one was interesting. I think, and Danny Masterson, although I think he got kicked off the show maybe later on in the series for something. Yes, Renee likes Suits. Yes, 7 times. Yes, I still enjoy it quite a lot as well. That's one of my favorites. I think I have maybe a few shows left to go there. The Last Kingdom, if you're kind of into early British, not British, it wouldn't have been Britain at that time, but very early kind of Vikings versus Saxons in that time period, and the warring tribes, and I can't remember what the king was, King William at that point, or William the Conqueror, but it's right around that early time period. So it's interesting because it pulls in some of the battles that you would have read about in history class, or not history class. We took social studies. If you read any history, I guess that would tie into it. What are some of my other favorites? Let us know in the comments if there's any other favorite shows. We are looking for some fun shows to watch. And I've watched How I Met Your Mother a couple times just because it's funny. Some of them are pretty serious, but they're 20 minutes. It's easy kind of to wind down at the end of the day. And Friends, I've seen Friends a couple times. So, and I know my daughter was like power watching Friends at just before the end of the year because it was going to leave Netflix, and I think it went to Crave or somewhere else. So let us know if there's any other shows that you are interested in, or if you have any good movies or anything to recommend off of Disney Plus. I'm trying to think what we watched on Disney Plus the other day. We did watch, my daughter and I did watch The Mandalorian. So that was kind of, it's not Baby Yoda. He has a different name. I can't remember how to say it properly, but it's not Baby Yoda, who everybody was like, oh, Baby Yoda is in this show, but it's apparently not Baby Yoda, or we don't know for sure who he turns out to be. And what was the other one that was Disney Plus?
There's another one on there. The one, it's similar to Inside Out. I can't remember what the name of it was.
Ohana, which was
good. We watched that one too. That was really good.
And then there were some really good ones on Disney Plus. Oh yes, Renee says her daughter's watching Full House. Yeah, and I watched that as a kid too. I remember loving to watch Full House. It was pretty exciting on whatever night of the week it came on, and if you missed it that night of the week, you had to wait until next week to see the next episode. My daughter has watched Full House, I don't know how many times, and Fuller House multiple times. It's definitely one of her favorites. I thought it was funny. She's like, Mom, this good show. And I'm like, I watched that show. She's like, no, you didn't. I did.
Grey's Anatomy too was one that as a kid I watched with my mom, and then had to wait for the next week. And eventually we could record it. And
which one did Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, it was great. Well, no. So no. ER.
Yes, ER. Yeah, I was going to say not Grey's Anatomy.
Not Grey's,
I remember.
ER.
Yes, I remember watching ER. I like that one.
Yeah, me too.
What else was I going to say? There was one other. Oh, The Umbrella Academy. We've watched that on Disney Plus. So there's a set of people that at a certain time in the world they were born and they have certain powers, and this person kind of collected all of them, or as many of them as they could, and then they kind of became not superheroes, but then they kind of fall out of favor, and then at the end of the season they time jump to another, so they actually jumped back in history to the 50s and 60s, maybe that time period. So then they all ended up in different places, and the story is how they tried to find themselves, but then they time jump to a different thing, and then the reality is different. So it was just really interesting how they, for that one anyway. So that was The Umbrella Academy. But again, let us know if there was any other videos or TV shows that you liked, or maybe you like documentaries. My husband is a huge fan of documentaries, especially music documentaries. He's watched a lot of those, and there's some really interesting ones out there. But I think we will, I don't see any other comments popping up. So Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We hope you've found some shows that you enjoyed, or you will let us know some shows that we could watch. So take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.